Hey, you, on the swing.
I'm Lex,
And I'm Gibby.
and this is Porch Swing People. Welcome to the first episode of our new podcast, a series highlighting the best of humanity through storytelling and casual conversations from everyday folks.
We believe the best of humanity lies in the simple moments, treasured memories, the beauty that each of us finds in our day-to-day life, and the hopes we carry with us for the future.
Why are we starting this podcast now? Well, timing is everything, isn't it? While so many of us feel the fatigue and burnout of keeping up with current events, it is also the most imperative time of our lives to lean into joy where we can. We hope this podcast brings our listeners a bit of joy, thoughts to ponder, or positive energy to fuel your day.
Hey, and we also hope this podcast inspires you to reach out to some people that you love. Maybe someone you talk to every day. Maybe someone you haven't seen in a long time, and check in and see how they're doing.
Gibby, what can our listeners expect each episode?
Well, here's what I think you can expect. Each episode, we're going to bring a different guest on for an easy, casual conversation. What's going on in their current life, fun memories from the past, and the goals and hopes for their future.
We plan to cover a wide variety of random topics because our differences make us stronger. Want to hear an example of a random topic?
Go for random topic.
What was a meal you had that was so good you still think about it occasionally?
That's easy. For me, it's my grandmother's pot roast, carrots and potatoes, Sunday afternoon, every Sunday. It brings me back home.
Do you remember the last time you had pot roast?
It's been a while since I've had a pot roast, but I can tell you anytime that I had pot roast, carrots, and potatoes, it takes me back to when I was a kid.
Oh man, I love when something like that throws you back to your childhood so clearly.
Hey, before we bring on our first guest, let's share with our listeners a bit about who we are.
Great idea. Tell us who you are in 3 quick facts.
Well, I'm a husband, a father, and a grandfather. I love the outdoors, fishing, camping, and horseback riding. And in my younger years, I served as a U.S. Navy SEAL. What are 3 facts about you, Lex?
Let's see. I'm a mom and a wife. When I'm not staying home with my 2 young kids, I am a public school teacher. And I also love the outdoors, particularly hiking.
What's the coolest hike you've ever done?
Oh gosh, honestly, I'd have to give that some thought and come back later. In the meantime, why don't you introduce our first guest?
Right on. So, our first guest is Aaron. Aaron is a longtime friend. He and I met when we were in the Navy. We both served as in-service recruiters up at Recruit Training Command up in Great Lakes. Aaron is one of my dearest friends. He's a genuine, kind fella. You guys are going to love him, and I'm excited to hear what he's got to share with us.
Should we bring him on?
Let's do it.
Hey!
Aaron,
Yeah,
we hear you.
We cannot see you.
What is going on? All right, let me. Of course, I'm having technical problems. It was
We
working.
It's
didn't
all
see
right.
earlier.
It was working on the entry.
Hey, on the bottom, do you have a thing where it says mic,
Oh, there.
cam?
Yeah, here we go. Whoa,
Aaron!
that'll scare you. Hope you guys are loaded up on coffee.
Woo!
Yeah, I got extra ready to go.
Oh, you guys are.
How
too
are
fun.
you?
Doing great.
Oh my gosh.
Lex, how are you?
I'm
You-
doing great. How are you?
Doing great. You still have that same look, that same face as when you were just a little kid.
She doesn't
I-
change.
No,
Look,
no.
see that? Those are tired eyes.
Even with 2 little babies, it doesn't matter.
Well, thanks.
That's awesome.
You look the same too.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Your dad's got more hair than I do.
You know what? Gibby kind of did a little introduction about you, but he didn't say that we have known you for 3 decades,
Yeah,
3 plus
Yeah.
decades.
yeah,
Well, was it 94?
yeah. 94, yeah, that's right.
Well,
The end of
really
94.
95.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
95.
For,
Wow.
yeah.
Hey, welcome to our podcast. Have you been on
Welcome.
a podcast
Are
before?
we rolling? Are we going?
Yeah,
Oh.
we are.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, let's see. My wife hates it when I say this, but I say I'm semi-retired. I'm a retired Navy diver. Did that for 20 years, and then got into an armor business and became a part owner of an armor company, a defense contractor. and did that for about 10 years. And then we sold that company. And since then, I've just been able to spend a lot of time on the family and seeing friends and, just living that semi-retired lifestyle. But don't let my wife hear me say that.
But what's the semi-retired part?
Well, I mean, we still own a small delivery business. It's like a same-day delivery business for the wine industry.
Very cool. It's quite the little niche.
Yes.
So, hey, Aaron, Lexi and I were talking about meals a little earlier, and the question to us was, what was a meal that you had what was so good that you still have memories about it?
Oh man. Well, I like to eat, so that's I'm assuming that's where you guys got that question from, because I'm a big eater and I really enjoy it. I love my food, but I that's interesting. My grandmother was a great cook, and my great grandmother was I want to say an even better cook, but I probably shouldn't say that. But yeah, my great grandmother and my grandmother on my mom's side were fantastic cooks. But the one that really stands out in my memory, which I'd be doing my wife a disservice if I didn't really mention her, because she's a fantastic cook. And back when we first met, right around the same time I met you guys, just a little bit before, I was stationed in San Diego, and we had an apartment in Pacific Beach area, and this was like 4 divers all living together, 4 guys. Mm-hmm. And around the corner were these 4 girls that lived in a house just around the corner from us. So always going to the beach and to the bars and stuff like that, we'd always connect. But they'd have parties and things like that. We'd go over there. So my wife Lee, and I'll just stop right there. A little sidebar comment is that I have her name tattooed on my leg, and her dad chose to spell her name the boy's way. So I have a nice boy's name written on my leg, Lee. And
and that's Gibby's middle name, right?
Oh no, I didn't know that.
You have, so instead of telling people you have Lee's name, you can say I have one of my
dearest friends right here is I don't want to forget him. His name is Lee. His middle name.
What was his name?
I think we should go with that. That's what I'm going with that from now on. If anybody asks me, so Lee and I we started dating, right, and running around together, having a pretty good time in Pacific Beach. But the meal, getting back to the meal specifically, I don't know how long we had been dating for at the time, maybe a month or 2, I can't remember, maybe a little bit longer. But in any event, she would, none of us were making great money back then, but she would choose to take the little money that she had, and she would go grocery shopping and spend all of her extra money on feeding a group of us, like 8 to 10 of us, right? And she would put together these great meals. One particular, it was like this chicken pasta. And, at the time, gosh, what was I, like 23? I can't remember how old I was, but, to get fed like that while we were running around Pacific Beach, she would just put all of her heart into it, and everybody would, come running. Friends of friends would come to get fed by Lee, right? So she made these great meals for all of us, super elaborate, and everybody just feasted. And that stood out in my mind as the more we were dating, like, oh man, I better jump on this and like ask this girl to marry me, because somebody else is going to if she keeps feeding the community like this.
So where did she get her cooking skills from?
Well, her mom's a great cook as well, and I think she just naturally wants to take care of people and has a big heart, and she's just developed it. We've been married, oh my gosh, it's going to be 30 years this year, right?
Wow,
it's, yeah, 30 years in October. So she's really honed her skills as a fine cook. Yeah. So
I vividly remember when Aaron, I hadn't known him very long. We were up at Great Lakes with each other as co-workers, and And we were riding along, maybe knew each other a month or so, and he goes, "Well, I found the one. I'm going to do it." And I'm like, "Do what? You found what?" I'm going to ask Lee to marry me.
Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah.
I remember.
That's right, Gibby. You actually reminded me. I took her to Great Lakes without even a promise. I mean, she just went with me from San Diego to Great Lakes, and she's a California girl.
What a testament to the person that she is.
Yeah.
That even way back then, she was spending the little money she had for others.
Mm-hmm.
What meal from your grandma do you remember growing up?
Oh wow, she could make the best fried chicken, and she actually taught Lee how to fry chicken. And,
Wow.
Oh yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and you know how I wouldn't know exactly, but I know she. What is it when you put it in salt water? You brine it. Maybe sometimes people say it would dry out the chicken, but it was never dry. It was always perfect. And she would make mashed potatoes and then the chicken gravy with the mashed potatoes and something. Okay, did you guys have that? We kind of grew up near each other, didn't we?
Yeah.
Like.
We did.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't know each other, but I grew up in Keokuk, Iowa, and you grew up in
The Pekin, Illinois.
Galesburg, right?
It's like outside of Peoria, and then I later moved to Williamsfield, Illinois, but that was my last 2 years of high school. So yeah, but getting back to the meal, my grandmother, for whatever reason, I've never heard of this from anybody else. She would make noodles, like where you roll out the noodles, and I can't remember what kind of noodles, and then put the noodles over the mashed potatoes with gravy on it. So you're like,
oh, wow,
double starch.
Oh yeah,
double starch.
Oh man, but my family would go crazy over it. I can still see her to this day rolling out those noodles and then cutting them up. And oh yeah.
Speaking of your childhood, what was one of your favorite traditions growing up?
Well, I think you guys can probably tell already. I'm pretty fond of my grandparents. They did help raise me. My last 2 years, I moved from Pekin, Illinois, out to they had a house on a lake, and so my last 2 years were spent at Williamsfield High School. We call it Billtown. So it was a great experience. The people out there, as you guys know from the Midwest, are the best people in the world.
Yeah.
And so for my last 2 years of high school, they just welcomed me in, and they're just great people from that part of the country. But as far as like the traditions go, I have great cousins. So my mom's brother, his family, he's got like, I want to say 5 or 6 kids. I can't even keep track. But growing up, I had a younger sister, or I have a younger sister. Gosh, I'm so sorry. And she's not.
Sorry, younger sister.
Sorry.
Gina would kill me. But she's years
she'll
younger
say,
than
I
me.
had an older brother.
I better not tell her about this one. But anyway, the traditions were always at my grandparents' house, especially as you can imagine at the lake. And it didn't matter the season. I mean, it was fun all the time. And just those, when you get together, and you can imagine I already talked about the food. I won't go back into that, but of course, all that country cooking was there, and being around my cousins. We would be on the lake in the summer, and my grandfather had a boat. He would always have a boat, and he loved it. And,
Did it right.
Yeah, and so it was a ski boat, but you could fish from it or whatever. But we would always be out, and my cousins, we would all go tubing, right? So back in the 70s and the 80s, you just didn't get online and order a tube, right? You went to you'd have to go to like a farming store and get one of those big black inner tubes from a tractor tire.
Yep.
And then they would have, do you remember the stems on those things, Gib?
Yep.
They would be
3-4
like
inches
6
long.
inches long. Yeah, and trying to figure out how to wrap that thing up. I mean, to get it to be able to tow behind the boat was a challenge, and there was just no way to figure things out as easy as they are now, if that makes sense. There was no YouTube video you could watch to figure out how to tow a tractor tire behind a boat. And
Sounds very
remember
safe.
that thing tightening down?
Yep.
And
Squeeze
you think it's going
tube.
to pop, and you're going to.
But it didn't.
No, it didn't. But yeah, we would have that, and then like later on, we bought this I remember my grandpa bought this torpedo type thing once things started to get more advanced, and so we'd have 4 of us on those tubes. And my uncle would try to whip us off,
Wipe out.
darn near kill us, right? And so we would jump. The challenge was we would have wrestling matches and fighting matches to see who we could knock off the tubes, and jumping back and forth, and it was survival of the fittest. It was super fun.
We did the
Those were
same
great
thing when we
times.
grew up. Fights on the tubes. Those
Yeah.
were the best.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Aaron, do you think the times at the lake drew you to being a Navy diver?
Somewhat. I mean, being around the water was, no
You're
problem.
very familiar with it.
Yeah. No, I think I do remember I was, I'm sure Gibby's got the same kind of story. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I going to the Army recruiter, going to the Navy recruiter, and I remember the Navy recruiter knew that I was talking to the Army guy, and
Oh, do
So
they
he-
chat? Wow.
oh yeah,
They're watching.
Oh yeah, they know, and so the Navy recruiter, being we were in the Midwest. This was out of Galesburg. That's actually where I joined. The office was out of Galesburg, Illinois, and the Navy recruiter showed me a picture of this blue water and the blue ocean, right? And I mean, it was like so incredibly blue. He knew what he was doing. A kid from the Midwest. He's like, do you want to go to the Army and you can go tromp around the woods, which I'd been doing as a kid my whole life, right? Too, or I could go live on the coast and swim in that blue water. And I was like, sold. Let's go.
Nice.
What a smart
I remember the
recruiter.
photo that he showed me.
Yeah.
It was so cool. It was so inspiring. I was like, I want to see that. I've seen enough of the woods, and what am I going to do? Tromp around the swamps out in Georgia or whatever the Army does. Bash on those guys. But anyway, that blue water's what
Got him.
me. Yeah.
Well,
big
did you
hook.
know? You probably know this about Gibby. Did you know that originally he couldn't swim at all?
Oh, I don't
That
believe
is-
it.
That is
true.
not true.
It's true.
I grew up in the Mississippi, so I knew how to swim.
Yeah.
Sure.
I just
But not with any sort of finesse.
That is
right?
correct. So when I had to try out for the SEAL entrance exam, was physical exam, the first thing was the swim, and they had 2 groups. They put me in the water with the first group. There's 12 of us, so 6 and 6, and so he was like, okay, you got to do it in this so much time, and you can only use a side stroke or breaststroke, and I'm like. So
Oh, for the listeners, he's
Yeah.
looking up like he has no idea what that means.
So then the dude says, go. And these dudes take off, the other 5 guys. And I'm standing there. And I see some dudes that are doing the side stroke, I'm assuming. And I'm seeing these dudes crunching it with the breaststroke. And the Master Chief was like, did you hear me not say go? And he goes, what are you doing? And I'm like, trying to figure out which stroke I'm going to use. So I did the breaststroke. And poorly, I'm sure. And I passed the swim by 4 seconds, and I paid for it for the rest of the day. But
Full
hey,
on finesse, right?
yeah. And then when I got to buds, it just went downhill from there for the first 3 or 4 weeks until I got fins.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they gave me fins, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make it. Because there was a minute I was like, I don't know how many towels and bricks and buckets I can swim with.
Well, Aaron, do you dive recreationally?
Not anymore. I mean, still have all the gear, and I hope to be able to get the kids certified. But we've been so busy with, they're both graduated college now and off doing their jobs, and time gets away from you. So
It does.
I keep it around for hopefully to go diving with them someday. But Lee and I did some recreation diving Back when we were first married, we went to Grand Cayman, I think.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible. And then I think, did a shark dive in the Bahamas. That was pretty cool. I think we still have that video. And the sharks would she's got the dark curly hair, and the sharks would literally rub their bellies over her hair to scratch their bellies. It was cool.
Was she nervous?
So funny.
Yeah, I think the worst part was getting in the water, because you'd see them. They were like dogs. They would come to the boat and knowing they're going to get fed. I don't even know if they do this anymore.
I did this 10 years ago.
Yeah,
Oh, did you
Lexi.
really?
In Belize. I got my diving certification so I could dive when I went to Belize.
On. Oh, I didn't know you did that. That's awesome.
Aaron, tell us a show or a live performance that you've seen that left an impressionable mark on you.
Okay, two come to mind, and one leads to the other, I think, maybe. But you probably had this too. So back growing up in the 70s, in the 80s, early 80s, the big anti-drug campaigns were kicking off. I can't remember if it was Nancy Reagan's big push or what the reason was, but the Just Say No to Drugs campaign, whatever year that was, but they would send these bands, well, at least they did for us, they'd send these bands to our junior high school. I think I was in the 6th grade, and a band is, I've never seen a live performance before, back then, not that I could think of. Certainly not a rock performance, and the energy that comes with it, right? So being in 6th grade and around all the kids, and it was one of those bands that would play all the cover songs for Loverboy, I remember, pretty clearly.
Loverboy.
Some of the other songs, but it was all in between songs they would have this big Just Say No to Drugs message, right, to all the kids. But and our junior high had this great theater, so I remember the light show and everything, and all the kids going nuts. But they would play all these great cover songs, and they were great. And I think that's what really, kicked off a lot of the love for live music. And I couldn't tell you the name of that little cover band.
Sure.
But after that, so some friends of mine, there was 3 of us in 6th grade. I don't know that I would send my kids now in 6th grade to a
Maybe.
concert.
Different times.
Right? We ended up buying tickets for it was Billy Squier and Rat. I think that was my first real live concert. Back around that age, I remember we all had we got our parachute pants, and you had to come back with a concert T-shirt. You had to buy one,
Of course.
so you could wear it to school the next day, right, and show it off.
Did you go to a lot of concerts?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, as much as anybody else probably, Bon
We-
Jovi and stuff.
We went to a lot.
Yeah.
Do you still go to live concerts regularly?
I try to, but what's interesting now that you ask, we just got back from Nashville, and my youngest son and his girlfriend, we all met there, and had a blast. And
Oh, man,
just
that sounds
incredible.
amazing.
I mean, and it was funny because that was his first experience with live music. Even though, I thought they would have concerts he went to the UC at Santa Barbara, and I thought they'd have concerts down there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But evidently not. He's like, I've never been to anything like this.
Oh, wow.
And,
what an amazing first experience.
Yeah. So he was hooked. I saw that spark in
That's
his eye,
wonderful.
just like I probably had when I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool. So yeah.
How awesome. This old cover band trying to convince you guys to not do drugs
Yeah.
had such a great impression on your musical life.
Yeah.
Hopefully your no to drugs life as well.
Yeah.
He went in the Navy. There was no.
Yeah.
difference.
There was no choice.
I'm so curious about this. What is a small act of kindness that you have witnessed or experienced that has stuck with you?
Probably has me involved.
Yeah, right. Small act of kindness. That is not. Gibby
Now
does
I
not
wish I
come
hadn't
to
said
mind.
anything.
And is this why you have his middle name tattooed?
Yeah.
From
Yeah,
this
that's right.
experience?
Yeah, but yeah. So Okay. This is a story that's near and dear to my heart because I go back. I was probably like 5 or 6 years old, like kindergarten age, right? Is that 5 or 6?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is like mid 70s, and I remember being in the front yard, and I think we were in like this little apartment building, and it was in Peoria, Illinois. We were playing in the front yard, and my mom, I remember, Gibby, you remember those old aluminum folding chairs, like lawn chairs?
Yep, I
I'm
do.
sure you do too, Lex. But anyway, I remember my mom sitting in a folding lawn chair in the front yard. I can't remember exactly the situation, but just playing. My mom all of a sudden points to a car that's driving by, and she says, "Oh, she's got her purse on the roof." And my mom didn't tell me to do this. I don't remember exactly like why I did it, but I just started running alongside this car as it's driving down the road. I, caught up to her, and I'm trying to tell the lady that's driving, like, "Hey, your purse. Your purse is on the roof, your purse." And she couldn't figure out what this little boy was running alongside her car trying to get her attention. And that's not the kindness part. The kindness part comes like I think she drove around the corner and drove away. And I'm like, well, I guess I couldn't explain it well enough. Like, whatever I'm thinking as a little boy. I'm up the block away, so now I'm starting to walk back home. And I get back to my mom. At that point, I'm just going back to playing as a little kid, right? Anyway, the lady pulls up in our front yard, and she gets out of her car and comes over to my mom and I. And I just thought it was super cool. She came back and wanted to give me $1 for telling her that she may have said something along the lines of like, if you hadn't told me and that purse, if I lost that, I'd have lost it seemed like she would have lost quite a bit, whatever. And that little act by her coming back and giving a little boy $1 reward for doing something that just like I said, it came natural. It's just spark and you react, right? But she came back, and that reinforcement of doing something nice for somebody, it carried with me my whole life. By doing something nice for her, she reinforced that with me, and I'll never forget it. So of course, what do you want to do if you're a little kid, right? You want to do more of that. I want another $1.
Yeah, that's
right?
very uplifting.
So she knew what she was doing.
She's reinforcing less of the behavior of you running after the car and more of reinforcing your kind heart.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
You know what, though? You never forgot it. I bet you that lady on in her years would never forget that little boy running after her. Like, what's he doing?
Exactly.
But you know what? She probably did not know the impact that she had
Right.
Nope.
by coming back.
That's
I
awesome.
Agree. I agree. I think about that. Yeah. Because I got the impression like she was in a hurry, right? Wherever she was going. She was in a
Yeah,
hurry.
she left her purse up there. She must have been in a hurry.
But she took the time to come back.
Super sweet. Hey, Aaron, a minute ago you said that your youngest had graduated college, and we know that the oldest one did as well. Yeah. So now that you guys are empty nesters, tell us what kind of dreams or goals are you currently working toward?
Oh, yeah. Kind of funny, but I mean, my goal right now is to get closer to those boys. So they're both down in Santa Barbara. They both, graduated working there, but pretty simple to, that's what I want to do is trying to get down to Santa Barbara, though, is not an easy feat, right? I mean,
That sounds like a lot of steps to make that.
That sounds like a parent's forever goal. I'm gonna get closer to.
Well, it's definitely Lee's goal. I don't care where the boys are. I think she just wants to be in Santa Barbara, right?
That's really fun. So, what's your timeline? Soon or in a couple of years?
Yeah, it's not going to happen anytime. So, living in Lodi now, her parents live here, so we're not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. We like being close to them.
Hey, here's the danger of what you're, hey, we want to get down to Santa Barbara near our boys. There's no guarantee that them boys are going to stay in Santa Barbara.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's how it goes.
It is how it goes.
Aaron, you know what? We've taken so much of your time. We're so grateful that you joined us this morning. But before you go, we have one more question. What is a simple joy that never gets old for you?
Oh, well, I think we talked about it when we first started talking about doing this. Is just sitting down and drinking a cup of coffee with friends, and I really enjoy that. Never gets old.
Oh man, that's a perfect answer.
Well,
And you're drinking coffee right now.
Yeah, always.
I have mine.
If
Always?
I may, I'll tell you.
I
I'll
got
tell
mine.
you why, and I'll try not to drag this out too long. But the reason why I try to enjoy every sip of coffee, and again, my grandparents are part of the greatest generation, right? And my grandfather fought in World War II, and he was in France, and he told me a story. Well, he didn't talk about his time there very much, but he did tell me a story about sitting in a foxhole, and those guys were cold. They were like cold, like you couldn't imagine sitting
Real
across,
warriors.
yeah, with the gear that Gibby and I used to have. You could last, but these guys had no gear.
Tough. Very
and
tough.
they just had to be tough. And so he was sitting in a foxhole, across the river. I think in my mind he was across the river from the Germans on the other side. And he said that he heard the canteen truck pull up, like behind him, and quite obviously the guy quite a ways back, but enough that he knew it was the canteen truck. And he said that the guy was making his way with a pot of coffee and trying to go from foxhole to foxhole to give the guys some warm coffee. And my grandpa, he said he was getting in whatever bag they had to get his little tin cup out, I suppose. And he said, "Oh man, I'm going to get a hot cup of coffee." And by the time the guy got to him to pour him some coffee, I said, "Well, did he run out of coffee?" He said, "No. He had coffee, but it was frozen." So the guy was trying to pour the coffee into his cup, and it was just ice cubes, just like frothy ice cubes.
And it started as hot coffee.
Yeah. So
So
every time I think about having a nice hot cup of coffee, enjoying it, it's those guys that didn't get to have their hot coffee in those foxholes.
Oh, that's
I try to enjoy
incredible.
And
I'm gonna
hence,
take my
iced coffee was created.
Iced coffee's a very popular thing now.
It is now.
Thanks to your grandfather. What would be worse? The coffee guy getting to him and it being empty, or it being there but inaccessible? I definitely think the latter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. At the end, though, it was basically the same. I don't have hot coffee.
Well, I'll tell you this too: is nobody has an appreciation more for that story than my frogman friends that I tell that story to. I've told that to several guys over the years, and every one of them can totally relate and love it. So,
I do. I love that story.
Yeah. You guys would know better than anybody.
Well, you know what? I mean, one of my longest and dearest friends. We still create memories with each other. We still get together occasionally. We do this Montana trip, usually an annual trip up into the mountains, horseback riding, fishing. Great time. As always, I look forward to our next trip. I'm not sure if it's in Montana or if it's going to be here in the Uintas, but this fall we're getting together.
Yeah, can't wait.
And you always have a place up here if you want to come visit us, and Dad'll come up and.
Yes, you need to go up there.
Yeah,
and
I want to see it.
It is lovely. And the grandchildren, would love to introduce them. They are, just like any other. They're amazing.
We'll make that happen.
Thanks so much for your time. This has been so fun.
Yeah, I've had a great time, guys. Thanks so much for the invite.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah, take care.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Peace, brother.
Wow, that was so much fun.
Aaron's always fun. He is just a genuine, nice person. He always has.
And talking about a podcast on positivity, I think he was the perfect first guest.
Yeah. Yep.
How do you think it went?
I think it went really well. I didn't really know what to expect. We just shared some stories. And, obviously the one thing, he and I, another thing we have very much in common is our grandparents were a huge impact on our lives. I mean, I didn't bring up mine, but I had both sets, and I even had some great ones, great grandparents. And so everything that the stories he was telling resonates dear to my heart. And I miss my grandparents. I still have one, and I'm going to give her a call today,
Good.
just because it's been a long while.
What would you say your main takeaways from our conversation with Aaron would be?
Don't
Do drugs.
don't do drugs. Stay
And
in
enjoy
school.
live music.
Yeah, what I was going to say, and don't take a nice hot cup of coffee for granted.
My other one would be, my cooking skills are not the same as Lee's, but the idea of having a gathering of people that you are there to contribute to in a positive way is so meaningful.
I've been a recipient of Lee's cooking in those larger groups, and she does an amazing job.
Wow. What a person. We'll have to have her on the podcast sometime.
Sometime.
Well, how should we finish this? You want to say every sip of coffee matters?
Okay.
Okay, right?
Yep.
1, 2, 3.
Every sip of coffee
Matters.
That did not work out very well.
We cannot say things together.
All right,
All right,
you
well-
say it.
No, you say it.
All right. We're going to sign off with the thing from Aaron. Every sip of coffee matters. Porch Swing People is recorded and produced by Lex and Gibby. Opening music was written and produced by Michael Gibson. Porch Swing People is a podcast featuring everyday people. If interested in being a guest, email us at porchswingpeeps@gmail.com.